ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way, with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time of the week for the Breakfast Bankroll. We got a action-packed schedule today. Adam Trigger at Adam Trigger WT at Wager Talk to come in, talk a little quick recap of the NCAA last weekend. Sweet 16, Elite 8. Of course, we got the Final Four. We got the finals in the NIT tonight. Chattanooga versus UC Irvine. A little push on UC Irvine. Opened at 3, now 4.5 there. At the half hour, we will have Andy Powers, the voice of BC hockey, will not be at the Frozen Four this year. And, of course, we'll talk the demise of the Bruins. And wrapping up the show, Tyler Wyatt. At Tyler Wyatt Bets will be in for a little more NCAA and what the future holds for him as we're winding down in college hoops. So first and foremost, a shout out to our proud sponsors and partnerships. It's WagerWire. You know the drill. Head on over to Google Play. Download the app. It is free. Viva Tequila Seltzer. The East Coast is cuckoo for coconut. 6 flavors in all. And AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Introduce yourself to Terry Smith on Facebook, and then head on back to AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Steaks, chops, seafood, appetizers, wine, and of course 4 subscription plans. Set it and forget it every 30 days. A big box from Terry of all your protein you'll need for the rest of the month. The only other thing you'll need is another propane tank. So without further ado, Mr. Adam Trigger.
Hey, Jeff, how's it going?
It's going well. You know, a lot to talk about, and I know you're a busy gentleman here. You know, Sweet 16, Elite 8, the favorites 12-0 straight up. First time in 17 years, all 4 ones got there. Not that they didn't deserve it, but of course, the public always finds something to whine about, Adam. The fact, no Cinderella, you know, where, you know, I mean, the proof's in the pudding here. NIL, transfer portal, those mid-majors are now just a feeding ground, you know, just 1 year, one and done. Hey, Adam, I paid you $50,000 to play at Siena this year, and the Kentucky comes knocking and offers you $500,000. You're going to say, hey, coach, thanks, but I got greener pastures to go.
That literally happened. Ainsley Almanor from FDU was looking at Siena, and Kentucky came over the top with a much bigger offer, and he ended up at Kentucky. So what are you going to do? Tough to, yeah, it's tough for, it's just, it is what it is, I guess. I mean, you do get, you know, the freedom to move around is going to get you guys on the back end. Like, for example, Siena's got a guy coming from Iowa that will play his last year at Siena. You know, he's a Capital Region guy. Of course, Fran McCaffrey, you know, no longer the coach. And so, like, you know, like, you'll benefit. Like, that would probably not have happened in the old days, right? Like you're not going to get a senior that comes from a power conference school to play their last year at Siena. But yeah, let's not sugarcoat it, Jeff. It's not helping the little guys. That's for sure.
Well, call me stupid. I want to say I was blindsided, and you're going to laugh when I say this. I was kind of shocked when I saw Liam McNeely going into the NBA draft. Now listen, he's no Cooper Flagg, obviously. He's no Broom either. And I know he had a great year. And Mahaney transfer, and they don't let the door hit in the ass, kid. Oh, my God. And the bench guys are flocking. Ball is staying. It sounds like they got the big recruit transfer from Georgia. But when the dust settles, hey, McNeely was good, but were you surprised? Did you expect him to be a one and done guy?
A lot of these guys, it's not so much how well they played for the one season in college. It's how their game translates to the pros. And from what I was reading, it seems like, listen, Jeff, I could care less about the NBA. I don't watch it. I don't follow it. I don't think I've actually sat down and watched an NBA game since like the COVID bubble, because there was nothing else to do for a little while. So I could care. It's just not somewhere I focus any of my time. But I do know that like it's less about how you played across 30 games and more like how your game translates to the NBA. Sounds to me like the scouts like how his game translates. So no, not overly surprising to me.
Final four ones. I talked about this throughout the week. I had 4.5 on Duke. It is what it is there against Houston, where they're at home, meaning they're in their home state. Of course, Duke looks like last year's UConn team, just a wagon. But I was more really concerned on what are they going to put out there for an under-over. The under-over overnight for Tennessee and Houston was 120, 121, got steamed to 125 and 126, landed on 119, Adam. So I said, okay, if they put out a 140, that's obviously a Duke number. If they put out a 130, that's a Houston number. They fit it right in at 136.5. And I have said all along, if Houston can muck this thing up, keep them in the low 60s. First one to 65 wins that game. But every time Duke gets to 70, 71, 72, well, that's obviously Duke's pace.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think a lot of people are going to look at last year's Sweet 16 game, and my gut is telling me that was a more defensive game than the one we're going to get this year. Now, I don't think that means it can't stay under, right? I just think that like I don't think it's going to be quite as much of like a defensive rock fight as last year's game was. There's interesting ways to look at this. Okay, so like it's a Sweet 16 rematch from last year. Of course, there are going to be people that say, well, if Jamal Shed doesn't get hurt in that game, Houston probably wins. But I don't think that's a good way to make a case for Houston this year, because Duke is a far superior team to what they were last year. Duke's size is going to be a real problem, I think, for Houston here. And then the fact that, like, Houston doesn't generate great shots. They do everything. They literally do everything else well. They defend, but they check every other box. But creating like really good looks is not their forte. And they don't really have a size advantage against Duke, right? Who's like one of the biggest teams across their front line that you're going to find in the country. So that, I guess, is a concern for me for Houston. The other thing that concerns me for Houston is, you go back to the Houston-Tennessee game. Obviously, like, watching that game, like, it was one-sided, right? Like, I don't think anyone would argue that was a one-sided game. That being said, like, Tennessee just missed a lot of shots. There was a lot of shots that were open, and they just couldn't make them, right? Like, and especially in that second half. I mean, they made their run. I felt like Tennessee was generating decent looks once they got into the flow of the game. They just weren't making a lot of those shots. I don't think Duke's going to miss those looks, right? If they're generating those looks. So I do think there's maybe some number value here for Houston. I had this closer to 3.5, and I think you could get 5 now, maybe even 5.5. There's 5.5. So definitely a little bit inflated if you like Duke. But there's just, in my opinion, there's far more paths to victory here for Duke than there is for Houston. I think Houston's going to have to make tough shots to win this game. Whereas I just think Duke can do it in a number of different ways. So you are dealing with an inflated number here at 5.5 or 5. I'm just not sure I really want to go against Duke, even though it does feel like the value might be on the Houston side. So should make for a great game, though. That's what we get at this point. They're tough games to bet, but they're great games to watch.
Yeah, we were on the right side. We had the Tennessee team total under 62.5. And when you score 15 in the first half, you kind of feel good in the second half there. The second game, Florida went into the jungle this year and kind of manhandled Auburn. This Auburn team is showing flashes of why they were number one for a long time this year. I think this game's going to honestly come down to runs. I think both teams are going to have 7-0, 9-0 runs. I think this game will be won on who has the most runs, basically. Now, I think currently Florida's in a little better form, but again, I would not be shocked here. They're going to roll the ball out. I think the first one that gets to that 80, 82, 83, if someone gets to 85, wins this. Thoughts on Auburn, Florida?
Yeah, it's another very interesting game, Jeff. And again, we get to this point, two elite teams. I think you can make a pretty strong case for both sides. Like, and it's not really a cop-out. It's just what happens when you have the four best teams in college basketball. These two teams played once earlier this year. Florida won that game 90-81. So a couple things here, like that I guess we should point out. I don't think Florida's played even close to their best yet in this tournament. Yet they're still here. So you can't really penalize them for not playing their best because they're still here. And the other thing I kind of pointed out, so I played Texas Tech last weekend plus 7.5. And, I think we talked about on this show, Todd Golden was totally outcoached by Danny Hurley. And then he was totally outcoached by Grant McCaslin, but that was on short rest. And I think this sets up a little bit nicer for him. It's a conference opponent. He's got some in-season data, a lot of stuff that worked against Auburn the first time. And he's got a week to figure it out, which I don't care what you say. Like, that is going to help Florida, right? Like, Bruce Pearl is a good coach. He's not an X's and O's guy that's the caliber of Hurley or McCaslin. And there's a week to prepare. So I just don't think that you're going to have – I don't think Florida's going to get tricked schematically like they kind of did against UConn and Texas Tech. The other thing that I find interesting here, so Janai Broome gets hurt in their game over the weekend. Yes, he comes back. I'd love to know like where he's at in terms of like how close to 100%, because Florida really did a good job on Broome in that first game. Like if you really look quick, okay, 18 and 11, double, like that's a good game for Broome. But he took 19 shots and he was not, he wasn't getting like great looks in that first game. So the fact that Florida was able to kind of, do a respectable job on him, drop 90 on Auburn, like those are to me all things that are encouraging, I would say, for the Florida side. Again, my number's probably 1.5. So I guess very slight line value. And I'll say it again. These two teams, you play 10 times. One of these, they're not going to go 10-0 against each other, right? Like this is a pretty even matchup. These are two teams from the same conference. Both teams have the ability to adjust from the first meeting earlier this year. I just think that I'd be surprised if Auburn can make the adjustments necessary to win this game. So that's I wanted to make a case for Auburn +3 because I do see a little bit of line value there. But my concern is Florida's got all the extra time to prepare. They've already kind of had a couple hiccups, and we haven't even seen them play their best yet, right? Are they, is this their best effort? If it is, they're going to win. So again, just should be a great game to watch. Another tough game to bet.
I hand you Biff's Almanac. Who's playing Monday for shits and giggles, and who cuts the nets down?
Man, prior to the tournament, I thought Auburn was the team that was going to win this tournament. I think you and I on this show kind of talked all year about Duke being a no-brainer Final Four participant. Here they are. Man, I guess it would be like in step with like how this tournament has gone to be Florida and Duke, the two favorites, with Duke winning. I think Duke's going to be the toughest team to beat, but then again, like Houston's very capable. So, man, it's very, very difficult. Like I said, great games to watch this weekend. And here's the thing, Jeff. At this point in the year, it's all matchup based, right? You're not going to really find edges against the book from a numbers perspective. And if you do, it's going to be like in the case of Duke Houston, where Duke's probably got more paths to victory, but the books are going to make you lay like maybe 1 to 1.5 extra to back them. So they're going to tempt you with that +5 with Houston, even though it's probably a better matchup for Duke. Makes it very difficult to bet these games. I don't know. I feel like Duke probably does it. They're the best team. I've said that all year. I think I've said that since mid-January. Duke is the best team in the country. It doesn't matter that they're in the ACC. And again, though, am I confident in that pick? Not at all, because you've got 3 other very elite teams playing basketball in San Antonio this weekend. So should be great. Looking forward to watching it.
Well, the book's already braced. I saw one potential future number, and I saw Duke 4.5, and I'm like, oh dear, they don't want to get, because like the Super Bowl, like those 1 games, everyone comes crawling out of the woodwork, even if they haven't followed the regular season, never mind the March Madness. They see Duke in the championship and they run and flock to the window. I did see a Duke. Go ahead.
I'll tell you what, though, I think there might be something to like, let's just say it's Florida Houston. I do think there's something to Golden struggling off the short prep. I mean, he got totally outcoached by McCaslin and Hurley. Totally outcoached, totally out-schemed. I think Florida Houston in the final, I'd probably have to lean Houston. I think Sampson and that Houston team would be a very tough prep for Florida on 48 hours prep time.
Well, we'll talk the recap next Thursday, obviously, with you. Chattanooga, UC Irvine, NIT Championship. Irvine opened up 3 with a 146.5. Now 4.5 with a 146. Irvine is a battle to get to where they are. Chattanooga, both teams upset victories, of course. Thoughts on the championship game tonight?
I mean, I still can't believe I lost with North Texas on Tuesday. I felt like the game played out exactly how they needed it to play out. They took transition away from UC Irvine. They had a 15-point lead in the first half. They, dominated the aspects of that game that I thought they would. They still found a way to lose. Irvine made a bunch of tough shots. And so credit to the Anteaters. They did not go away. They made tough shot after tough shot. And here they are. Definitely tough to bet them now after the line move, but I kind of lean toward Irvine getting it done. I am surprised that Chattanooga was able to make it this far without Frank Champion. He hasn't played the entire tournament. It hasn't mattered per se. I mean, they needed a 3 OT win in the first round to beat Middle Tennessee State. Had to hit a couple big shots to beat a Bradley team that was shorthanded. So it hasn't mattered this whole time, but you want to talk about short prep. I saw a good stat earlier this morning when I was researching this game. Irvine didn't lose a single Saturday game in the Big West Conference this year. And why that's important is they're one of the few leagues that plays 2-day prep all season long, right? They play Thursday, Saturday, all season long in conference play. They did not lose a single Saturday game. So they Russell Turner seems to do well off the 2-day prep. I think he probably, puts together a game plan that's good enough here. That being said, Chattanooga is just kind of like, you keep expecting them to bow out, and they're still here, right? Like they're still kicking. I didn't think they would beat Well, I didn't really have like a strong opinion in that Loyola Chicago game, but they were the underdogs in that game. They went out right there. But like I said, they had the 3 overtime win. I'm wearing the Dayton Flyers hoodie right now. Dayton did not care even a little bit about their game down in Chattanooga. It was an 11 a.m. tip-off. They were annoyed they had to play on the road. Chattanooga destroyed them. So, again, I just think you get to a final. I think UC Irvine is just a tiny cut above class-wise, Jeff. And I like that statistic about how well they've played on the 2-day prep this year. which leads me to believe they probably win this game tonight. But a very slight lean for me there is all that is.
Last but never least, MLB into their first official week. The world is ending, of course, for the Atlanta Braves. They're 0-7. But I don't think what is enough being said is the two opponents. The Dodgers are now 8-0. And, oh, by the way, the San Diego Padres are now 7-0 here. Short slate on the MLB. A lot of people watching and listening. You see anything in MLB today, Adam?
I was cruising along in bases until yesterday. Kind of gave Matt. I gave back my season profit yesterday. Did not go well for me, so I'm right about even on the year, which it's April 3rd, so no problem there. We got 6 more months to grind it out. Honestly, this is as limited of an MLB slate as I think we'll see all year. But from a numbers standpoint, the only thing that my numbers even sort of lean toward here would be the Rockies maybe showing a little bit of value. I've never been a Tawan Walker guy, at least not in the last couple of years. So, Rockies plus 1.5 on the road, I think shows a little value just because I wouldn't be at all surprised if Walker got knocked around a little bit. And of course, when you can find good spots to play the road team plus 1.5, you kind of get that built-in extra at bat, right? Like if Philly were to cover the 1.5, they're going to have to probably do it in 8 innings. So that's about it. Like very, very slight value toward the Rockies. And then, maybe I guess the Astros as an underdog piqued my interest a tiny bit. I did play Joe Ryan in his first start. He was the guy that, had to shut it down last year for injury. I feel like he's still kind of working his way back. He wasn't super sharp against the Cardinals in his first start. And it feels to me like he's still kind of like working his way back from what I think was a shoulder injury last year. Astros just had a dreadful series against the Giants. So I could kind of, and I do like Brown. So I could kind of see this being a spot where the Astros maybe bounce back, play a little bit better. And I think last I checked, I think you're getting like plus 110 there, plus 108, plus 110. So again, it's a stretch. There's 5 MLB games today. I doubt I'll play any of those, but those are the ones that at least showed a little value to me.
Adam Scroller's been going the whole time at Adam Trigger WT at Wager Talk, WT.buzz /AT. Tell everyone your show schedule and, of course, where they can find all your work.
Yeah, all my stuff's up at Wager Talk. We're doing shows every day. Wager Talk YouTube channel is a great place to find those. I also go live often on Twitter to try to do some interactive shows. I've got a show with Tokyo Brandon. It's another good baseball guy. We kind of cover all baseball, Korean baseball, Japanese, AAA, the bigs. Like we're doing that twice a week. So lots of baseball stuff. And it's all on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. So like and subscribe, and you can find me there all season long.
Adam, have a great weekend. Enjoy the madness. Best of luck, and we'll catch up with you next week.
All right. Take care, Jeff. Appreciate you.
Adam Trigger, go follow him at Adam Trigger WT. You can get all his work at Wager Talk. Next up, Mr. Andy Powers. I don't know where to start. The demise of the Bruins, which we saw in August with the Swayman holdout, the coach being fired. Oh, by the way, how's Mr. Montgomery doing in St. Louis? And then, of course, BC hockey, where I saw it coming. And I think Andy did too. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Good Food. At Atlanta Steaks and Seafood, you'll find the highest quality meats from a variety of delicious cuts, tomahawks, salmon fillets, ribeyes, and plenty more to choose from. With an easy-to-use mobile-friendly website, selecting your pick of meat is made quick and easy. And don't forget, worrying about your dinner is a thing of the past. Check out some of the amazing subscription packages that Atlanta Steaks and Seafood has to offer. Fresh steak and seafood straight to your door. Order online at atlantasteaksandseafood.com.
The one and only Mr. Andy Powers.
Hello.
Well, it's been a few minutes since we last had you on. I think last time I reached out, you were on the Love Boat with Isaac, Julie, and so we let you enjoy that. You know what? Let's start with BC hockey here. I said all along, I'm going to take us back a year ago as you and our good friend, Mr. Anthony Pepe, were on your way to the Frozen Four, a high-powered octane offense that was just going to cruise right to the championship. You win the first round. You're sitting in against Denver, a team that is a blue blood in hockey, but this is BC. We are rock solid. Minus 200, I think, favorites that game. Maybe closed at 220. Reached out to Pep, how you feeling? Because he had a big future on BC. No problem. After the first period, I was tighter than a snare drum. And, of course, Denver wins. Well, in comes the number one seed again. Now, there were holes in this number one seed, BC. Actually, let's backtrack. Lost to what? Northeastern in the Hockey East. Then the brackets come out, and third period, 5 minutes to go, tied 1-1 with Bentley. And I'm like, oh man, we got problems here. You score 2-1, empty net, 3-1, no problem. In comes Denver, and I saw Denver plus 155. I couldn't get that out to my clients quick enough. Great team. Playing from my head, get to that third period when the score is tight. I didn't see it, Andy, and I just blurbed here. So the stage is yours.
Let me start with the cruise. First of all, I went on a cruise for my good friend Chris Masters' 50th birthday. He's old. I don't know how much longer he has, but I was on the cruise, and the first thing I said to my wife, there's room for two of us on that door, I'm not going to get Leo DiCaprio in the middle of the ocean if this thing goes down. So we made it safe and sound, no problem. Secondly, with Boston College, in the words of Richard Flair, to be the man, you have to beat the man. And the Denver Pioneers, defending national champions, they beat BC in the national title game last year. BC couldn't beat them again, and their season is over. You alluded to the flaws that BC kind of resonated there at the end of the season. Their inability to score goals cost them against Northeastern in the Hockey East Championship. The way that the schedule is formatted with Hockey East is single game elimination. So they lost that game. You can't lose that, first of all, but they lost that game. So then they're off for 2 weeks. That's not, and nobody wants to be off for 2 weeks heading into a single elimination national tournament. And then the Bentley game. Now, I've had to deal with this. A lot of people that, living in the Boston area, being the guy that pretty much built Boston College from a day school to where it is today. People, it was 1-0 late. BC totally dominated Bentley. That was a Division I team against a Division III team. They dominated them. I think they had like 45 shots. Their inability to score was the story of their season, especially late. They just didn't have enough offense to win. You juxtapose it with last year's BC team that was averaging close to 4 goals a game, and then got shut out in the national championship game against Denver, which was the first time they were shut out all season. That was shocking to me. What happened this year with Boston College wasn't as shocking. It was obviously disappointed. They had a talented team. I think if they squeaked by Denver, which they weren't going to do, but they had just as much a chance to win it as anybody does. But unfortunately, of the 64 college teams, Denver has one, and BC cannot beat them.
And it was funny because when the brackets came out, Anthony's like, oh, man, I'm afraid of Providence. I'm like, oh, my God, Anthony, I get you're begging to see Providence. It's something about Denver. They beat you last year. It's almost like a mirror image, Andy. Go back last year. You guys were cruising. You just beat BU twice, and then you go to the Beanpot, and you lose to them in the Beanpot final. This year, the same thing. You beat BU twice. Then you go to the Beanpot, and you lose there. And it's almost like a mirror image. And the real question I have for you, Andy, is you can bring all the talent in the world there. I almost want to call you the Gonzaga of basketball, because Gonzaga was that new shiny toy that was going to finally cut the nets down. And once they got to the big boys, whether it was the Sweet 16, the Elite 8, the Final Four, they would always crack. The last 2 years, you guys have been the number one team in the country can't crack that. How do you get to be a blue blood like the Denvers? And Michigan State bowed out early too. Michigan State, Michigan. How do you get that? Like, you're missing something, Andy.
No, I think it's a winning attitude, and I think you're right. I think that obviously I'm above reproach. I got 2 Hockey East championships. I'm a winner every day of the week. And I go back to the Little League when I grew up with this Mike DiVincenzo and Chris Joyce. They were on the other team. If I showed up in the parking lot, they were losing. That's just who I was. That's who they were. But yeah, you're right. BC, Gonzaga. Unfortunately, in big games, BC is Gonzaga. They're gone. They're not winning it. But, I think that's a mental thing. I think there's a lot of things that go into it. You've been around sports a long time. When these guys are winners, right? These guys, the Tampa Bay Lightning, when they were in their heyday, they just found ways to win. They had talented players, just as everybody else, but you knew that they were going to win. And just as, the Bruins are a losing organization now. I'm not saying BC is a losing organization. They have a ton of talent. They just have to get over that hump, across that chasm, as Mary Kay Roberta would say. But Denver just has it right now. Denver, if you look at them, David Carl's, the young coach there, done a great job. He just finds ways to win. They have a talented team. In college hockey, you really need a good combination of experienced seniors that come back for their 4th year. They have 2 of them that could have left last year after the national championship, but they came back and they're producing 40, 50 points from seniors. And then they have young kids like Zev Buyem, the sophomore defenseman. That's one of the best players in the country. And then they have a senior goaltender. That's just terrific. So BC, they just went through it. The season's over. They lost their top 2 players. Ryan Leonard's already playing with the Washington Capitals. Gabe Perreault skated with the New York Rangers last night. They have a tough time of keeping their talented guys, which you never besmirch those guys. Like, you get an opportunity to play pro hockey. That's what we're all about. You go get it. But Denver right now is the model of keeping guys that probably could have left and then complementing them with super talented young kids. And they just get a wagon that keeps rolling.
We jumped on them plus 200 to win the Frozen Four. Only minus 135 against Western Michigan, who they lost to.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, BU against the Penn State team. Hats off to my UConn Huskies. That game went to overtime. The winner of that game would have been their first Frozen Four. It's Penn State. I got Denver in a hard-fought win in my head, probably facing BU and Mr. Linehan just sitting there in the championship game. I got Denver finding a way to win this. What's your thoughts on the Frozen Four?
Yeah, I like Denver. For everything that we just talked about, I'm a BC guy. If Denver has 11 losses and Western Michigan beat them, BC beat Western Michigan earlier in the season in October. I'd like to see those games. I don't know how anybody's beating Denver. Every time that BC plays them, these guys are flawless. The goaltending's outstanding, and I can't believe they have 11 losses. But I'll take Denver in this. My feeling on BU. I love Linehan. The sooner they lose, the better for me. I don't want to deal with this like, oh, it'd be a nice story. No, it's a terrible story. So I'd love to see Penn State get past BU, and then Denver beats Penn State in the final. I think that it makes our BC's loss a little bit easier to swallow when you lose to the eventual champion. I don't know anybody on Denver. I don't care about their program. So if they win, I don't have to listen to anybody. If BU does win, it'll be terrible for Andy, and I'm very selfish.
What's the outlook? I did see Ryan Leonard. I was watching Ovechkin score last night. We're down 4-0 on a power play, 4-1. I did see Ryan Leonard, who drew that penalty to help that cause. How's the outlook for BC next year?
I think BC. They're an extremely well coached team. They're an extremely well recruited team. I think next year in college hockey, for people that don't know, it's opened up to major junior, which means that there was a really large group of talented players that if you decided to play major junior where you were getting paid up in Canada, that you could not play college hockey. That has changed. So next year, you're going to see kids that played major junior come into collegiate hockey. So that'll be an interesting kind of dynamic that impacts next year's season. I think for me, BC will have enough talent to be competitive. I don't know if they'll be the number one team in the country like they were this year for most of the season, but I think that their coaching is remarkable. Just the program's going to always bring in talented players, so they'll be ready to go next year, and hopefully they find that winning spark and they start winning big games like the Bean Pot in hockey's tournament games, so I can go back to pounding my chest.
All right, now the real fun. The Boston Bruins, we brought you on in September, October, November. We talked all about this. You go back to the Swayman holdout where, I went to business school at Maine Orono. I'm here to set the pay scale for all these goalies. And it kind of divided the locker room. And they get off to a slow start. He got off to a slow start. It was the coach. So they fired Jim Montgomery, and who no one's hotter than the St. Louis Blues right now. That's for a whole nother show, Andy. And then the Bruins, Swayman can't get it together. They showed a little promise. Trade deadline. Captain gone. Carlo gone. Swayman still being the sieve. They showed 2 games of a flash, and now they have just puttered down. First and foremost, we saw this coming, but did we see it this bad?
Well, you talk about winning teams, Jeff, and I knew going into this season with the Boston Bruins that this wasn't a winner, man. They don't have guys that can score goals, and I know there's people that pile on Swayman. I get no problem. You want to refer to your business degree at Maine? That's like me talking I graduated middle school. But Swayman's not the problem. Their inability to score goals cost them. Montgomery wasn't the problem. He's gone. And then I don't want to make sure I'm clear here. That was the right thing to do at the trade deadline. You go out and get as much as you can for the guys that you have because this team's not going anywhere. My problem with that is I don't trust them to draft well or appropriately where they're building for the future. I just have no faith in their front office. Now you look at tonight's game, Montreal against the Bruins. There's articles everywhere about these 2 original 6 teams down in the dumps. Like that's the organization. That's like there has to be major changes there, and it's not just the players and the coach. Everybody knows that's a little bit of the problem, but it comes with the front office and the leadership. So for me, I think the Bruins are in a world of hurt. I think this is a necessary pain to get to if you handle the rebuild right. A lot of people don't remember the Blackhawks were absolutely abhorrent in the early 90s. Worst organizations in all of professional sports. They were charging guys for parking their car there when they went on road trips. And then they were able to rebuild. They got Caves and Tays, and they make an unbelievable run with all those Stanley Cups. If that's the rebuild that you're doing, that's great. And it's a necessary pain. But I just don't trust the vision of the people in the leadership roles of the Bruins to make it that part.
Well, you're not going to, the ownership's, it used to be, hey, can you get us to the playoffs? Can we get into the second round? Because you're getting the home games, you're getting the monies, you're getting the revenue from the beer and yada, yada, yada. They're going to feel the pain, obviously, this year. They're not going to be in this playoffs. So I think the $1,000 question here, Andy, and we've talked about it, there's no Tuukka Rask to blame. There's no Bruce Cassidy. There's no Jim Montgomery. And we know Sweeney's had 9 lives and his counterpart there, Cam Neely. Do those 2 actually survive this?
Well, I think that if the Jacobs family that owns the Bruins, there's much like the Kraft family that owns the Patriots, there's a changing of the guard with the patriarch in both of those families, right? And I think that you'll see if Neely and Sweeney stay on, then it really reflects on that, Charlie Jacobs, who's the son of Jeremy Jacobs, hasn't gained control yet of the organization. I think Charlie Jacobs, the son, is more of a, hard charger, win now, no excuses. And Jeremy Jacobs is, hey, these guys did a lot for this organization. Just leave them in place. I'm sure it'll be fine. We're not going to change the status quo. And the status quo is not working. So I think if you see at the end of the season that there's not a kind of a clean sweep in the front office, or at least a new vision, right? The vision that they had. Look at their draft picks have been terrible. They were the only team not represented in the World Junior Tournament, right? They don't have anybody to speak of in the minor leagues that you're like, well, if he can just get here, then we'll be all set. There's none of that. So even though this has been a terrible year, they're dropping like a stone, and there's nothing to build on. Like, there has to be some sort of major changes. And I think if we do see those changes, I think that'll be reflective of a change at the top of the ownership group.
Well, I know on my bingo card, I never in my wildest dreams would have ever thought Montreal is minus 195 today against the lowly Bruins. And Montreal, still in the hunt for, quote unquote, a potential playoff spot, waiting for the brackets, waiting for the dust to settle. The comedy here for me, and I said this, I have a bottle of ammonia in the bottom of my sink, and I need to take it off and take a big, but smell to clear this, because Washington from the east, Winnipeg from the west, and currently as we speak here, Andy, I don't have either one of those two teams representing the east or the west right now when it comes time for the playoffs.
Well, I think Washington's the biggest story, the biggest surprise story in the NHL. I mean, they missed the playoffs last year. I mean, they retooled a little bit, but they're getting career years from a lot of their character guys. Dylan Strome scored a goal against the Bruins the other night. Ryan Leonard. You talk about young kids. Leonard's going to be a part of that team. I mean, I think he can play probably, if not second, third line minutes. Get more comfortable as it goes on. Their power play has been unbelievable. So Washington is a good story. To your point, I don't know if they have the staying power to make a long run in the playoffs. Winnipeg has always been that team that disappoints. You kind of, we talked about BC, their inability to win. Organizationally, Winnipeg, when they have a great regular season, they just don't find postseason success. And so until you do that, until you change that, I don't think anybody will believe in you. I'm much more apt to believe in the Dallas Stars, who seem like year in, year out, they make a long run. They don't get to the finals, or they don't win the Stanley Cup, but they get to the conference final, or they get to the final. But postseason success is an attitude. It's a winning attitude. It's a winning mindset. If you have it, great. If you don't, there's no hope for you.
Nothing better than turning the TV on and seeing the whiteout in Winnipeg. The fans, the crowd, they embrace this team. And as you said, especially in the West, when it comes to the brackets and the matchups, I always want to say the Kings are in for a nice long run, and there's Edmonton standing right next to them. And then the same, whoever Vegas is going to face. I like the Stars. I think they've been knocking on the door. They lose to Edmonton last year. Edmonton caught lightning in a bottle last year, Andy. So I'm going to give you Biff's Almanac. Give us, without the brackets and who's the final teams in the playoffs, what you see in the West.
Well, I think that, again, to your point, it'd be very difficult to pick against Vegas. I mean, the way that they have the teams that they have, the roster that is constructed, the goaltending that they get in the postseason. I think I'll probably see Edmonton against Vegas in the Western Conference Finals. I just don't think Dallas. I think Edmonton got over the hump last year in a sense where they got a taste of, hey, we can do it. We can get there. They were Winnipeg before Winnipeg, right? Edmonton was the team that couldn't get out of the first round. And I think it's baby steps in the sense where they made a run last year. They didn't make it. But now that they have that taste in their mouth, I think that they probably can get back at least to the Western Conference Finals. That's a caveat if they get good goaltending. But I think just history alone, I think it's Vegas against Edmonton in the Western Conference Final.
And now East, I got, obviously futures. I got them on Carolina. I jumped in on that Tampa bandwagon, and I thought I saw a bracket earlier this week where first round is Tampa potentially versus Florida here. And I'm like, oh, here we go again. What do you see back East?
Well, so if you want to talk about, and I think you and I always talk about this, like, Carolina thumped Washington last night. Carolina is the Winnipeg of the East, right? Mm-hmm. all their regular season success hasn't translated into postseason success. I think that, and I don't know if, the old Hartford Whalers, like there's a little soft spot there. But I think I'd like to see Carolina make a run. I think they made some moves at the deadline that would benefit, their postseason success. So maybe Carolina gets there. I know everybody in Hockey Canada is rooting for the Maple Leafs. Again, Maple Leafs, to me, they're not winners, man. You can't win the postseason. It's not something that you can turn off or on, and they just don't have success. And so I don't think they're going to make it far. I think Tampa Bay is a little surprising to me. They got rid of Stamkos, or they didn't re-sign him at the end of last season, but they've been probably better than they were last year. And they get timely scoring. Again, you talk about those Sorelli and those guys, Braden Point, like those guys just score big goals in big games. And that's an ability that is, you can't teach it. So maybe we see Carolina, Tampa in the Eastern Conference Final, and maybe Carolina can jump over and cross over into it. But I don't know. I don't know if Carolina has really matured enough to be the winner that they are in the regular season.
A couple of years ago, they were just a beast at home. They'd beat you 2-0, 3-1. And then, you just needed them to find a way to win a game on the road. And every series was down to 7 games. So again, it's like Rory McIlroy winning the Masters. It's one of those, just said it, sooner or later, he's going to win the Masters. I do the same every year with the Leafs. I've been waiting on Carolina here. I ask you one more NHL question. The Avs, they made a lot of moves. I think they're that Edmonton of last year where, hey, we're going to roll the puck out there. Not like last night where they sleptwalk in Chicago. But do you trust the Avs, or is it going to come down to goaltending for them?
I think it will come down for goaltending. I think that, the head coach in Colorado is my ex-teammate, Jared Bednar. He is a winner, right? We talk about a lot about that today, but he's a winner. He's won a Stanley Cup there. He won the American League, a Calder Cup as a coach in Cleveland. They have guys on their roster that have that taste for Stanley Cup success. So I think that's much like Vegas does. Colorado, I wouldn't want to get paired up with them in the postseason. But to your point, it's going to come down to goaltending. I think that they haven't had the steadiness that Winnipeg has with Hellebuck. So if they get goaltending, I think that they're a dangerous team. They got a lot of guys that can score big goals. They have a really good skating defensive core, and they'll be dangerous in the postseason.
Andy, always a pleasure. I could talk to you for hours. I know you got a lot of things to do. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to bring you in a handful of more times more if you're available throughout the playoffs. How's that?
I always make myself available for you, Jeff. You're a handsome guy, and I always have time for the handsome people.
Andy, thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, buddy. You too.
Andy Powers, Hockey East, BC Hockey, are the best in the business when it comes to hockey, whether college or pros. Love having him on. We're going to go to a quick couple commercial breaks, and when we come back, hopefully Tyler Wyatt will be here. Stay tuned.
Jared, hey, we're going to need you to tone it down with the Summer Friday thing, okay?
What are you talking about?
Well, for one, it's not summer anymore.
Oh, really?
Coconut. Also, who is this?
I'm the caddy.
Oh, he's my intern.
Sorry, intern. I'm his intern.
Yeah, he's doing a great job.
No golfing in the office, okay? Summer Fridays are over. You can keep the Hawaiian shirt, but the rest of this stuff, all right? Are you grilling?
Oh, yeah. Did you want a burger or a hot dog?
No, grilling in the office.
That's a good point. We should take this outside.
No, that don't. You put that right back down.
Yo, it's all in the hips.
Oh, dude, come on, we gotta go. Let's go.
ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history and stats. You could also sign up for sportsbooks and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download. Great start to the show. Adam Trigger at Adam Trigger WT at Wager Talk, talking some NCAA, some MLB, some NIT, of course. Andy Powers talking a recap of the BC hockey season. Again, number 1 seed falls to Denver, and that unfortunately ended their season. And that ended Andy and Anthony Pepe's trip to St. Louis, where the Frozen Four consists of Denver versus Western Michigan and BU versus Penn State. Winners meet, I think on Sunday it is. I think they go Friday, Sunday. I think that's when they go there. We have Denver plus 200 to win that tournament there. We're holding out for Tyler Wyatt here. 3 o'clock, Lou Finicaro. Fight Night Fortunes will be back here. Apex, UFC Las Vegas. Big fight there. Title fight, as Lou likes to say, smaller cages, less fans this week. Last week in Mexico City, high altitude fight there. And the headliner, Moreno, finds a way to win a close match. I thought it was, but he won on the scorecards. Local hero there. In the UFC there, as we talked about, short slate in the MLB tonight. 5 games in all. Red Sox, hey, Boston Red Sox fans, you can breathe now. Devers got not 1 but 2 hits. Our ace, Garrett Crochet, 6-year extension, $170 million, 8 innings, 4 hits, 1 walk, 8 Ks. So the Sox will be opening up at home tomorrow against the St. Louis Cardinals, weather permitting. Right now, rainy and dreary here in Cape Cod as we speak here. 5 games in all. Colorado at Chicago, 105 start. Phillies minus 195. You can get your Rockies plus 174. Overnight number 9.5 is now ballooned to 10. So they're telling you that the Phillies might score a touchdown, probably get close to 6 here. See if I see some team totals there, if they are at 6. What do we got? 5.5 under. So if you like the Phillies today, you don't want to deal with the obviously the minus 200 there. You can get them to get to 6 or better at even money there. Cincinnati, Milwaukee, Lodolo versus Cortez. Good pitching matchup. Currently basically a pick 'em. Milwaukee minus 114. You can get Cincinnati plus 102 with an 8 under there. Red Sox 105. Houck versus Ground Chuck, Charlie Morton. Baltimore opened up minus 115. Now 125 with a 9. That's now 9.5. Kind of surprised me. Morton got beat up pretty good his first game there. Team totals, Red Sox 4.5 over minus 125, and Baltimore 4.5 with minus 110 either which way there. What else do we got here? Houston at Minnesota. Houston limping at home again. They had those struggles last year, guys. So if you remember, Houston struggled at home for a long part of the season there. Brown versus Ryan. Minnesota opened up minus 120 overnight, now minus 137. 7.5 under overnight, now 7 over. There are some team totals for everyone. Houston 3.5 under minus 125. Minnesota 3.5 over minus 20 cents. First 1 to 4 wins that. So if you like Houston with the guaranteed 9 innings, 27 outs, You can either take them to win the game, or what I would do if you like Houston today, take their team total over 3.5 and get the plus money at plus 105 there. Arizona at New York, Kelly versus Carrasco. Again, another potential shootout. Overnight Yankees minus 110 with a 9.5. Now Yankees minus 116 with a 10 over. There, I'll look at some team totals for everyone there. Arizona 4.5 over minus 130. Yankees 4.5 over minus 135. ECSI VIPs 2-1 yesterday. We had the Mets team total over 5.5. They got there in extra innings. The stench play of the day that I gave out to the ECSI VIPs and I gave out to Sports Grid. Atlanta, who couldn't get an extra base hit standing on second base, hitting off of a tee. The under over was 8. They were Dodgers were minus 200 in the game there. And the comedy there was the Braves team total against, I called them Cy Snell. Yes, Chris Sale won the Cy Young last year. But Snell had some great performances. I think a no-hitter as well. Here we go here. He says Tyler's coming on in 1 minute. So, all right, I was almost ready to pull the plug on him. Anyways, team total was 3.5 juiced under minus 25. I'm sorry, minus 40. So in other words, if you like the Dodgers and you're looking at this, you're like, wow, I don't have to lay the 200 here. I can get the Braves team total under 3.5. And if they score 3, 2, 1, or 0, I'm a winner. It wasn't 2.5. It wasn't 3. And it wasn't 3.5 juice under minus 70. Something smelt in Mudville there. And as I said, it was the stench of the year as we released Atlanta's team total over 3.5. And we got it at plus 115. And we cashed it in the second inning. They scored 3 in the first, 2 in the second, 5, and then they got stuck on stupid and lose the game 6-5 on a walk-off Shohei Ohtani homer there. And the comedy is, again, Braves now 0-7, yet their 2 opponents that they have played, Dodgers 8-0, Padres 7-0, and the West is off to a great start. The San Francisco Giants are off to a great start. Arizona is now starting to win again, and then of course we have the Rockies there. So that's your report there. And in hockey, it was kind of comical. As I said, the Bruins minus. You can get them at plus 185 today at Montreal. Montreal team total 3.5 juice under minus 25 cents. If you like Montreal tonight and the Bruins to continue to swoon down the cesspool, you can get the Montreal team total over 3.5 at plus 105. So if you like and it's a 6 on the under over. So if you like Montreal to win tonight, grab them to get to 4 or better at plus 105 there. What else do I see on team totals in hockey? You like Dallas against Nashville? Got to lay a little juice, 30 cents for them to get to 4. Over 3.5 is minus 130 there. Winnipeg at the Jets, the game of the night there. Let me see what the actual number is right now. Go back to hockey here. Vegas opened up minus 130, now 125, 5.5 juiced under. You can grab the Jets plus 112. Going to be a great game. The numbers are telling me first 1 to 3 wins this one, and their team totals are set that way as well. As Winnipeg team total over 2.5, minus 20 cents. Vegas team total over 2.5 is minus 155. So without further ado, let's bring him in for a few minutes. Mr. Tyler Wyatt. What's up, T?
What's happening, JD?
You put me to the test there. I think I just did about 9 minutes of solo talk, but that's what we get paid the big bucks for. How's that?
The listeners love that, though. The listeners love that.
Hey, listen, first time in 17 years, all 4 number ones make the Final Four. We know nil. We know the transfer portal, big part to do that. 12-0 straight up. And the locals, the public bitching and whining, where no Cinderellas. Well, this is what you get when you get paid for work, and the mid majors are now just the training grounds where Tyler Wyatt, I paid you $50,000 at Siena to play ball, and Kentucky comes and says, "Hey Tyler, what a year! Here's $500,000." Shocked? Not shocked? What you saw Sweet 16 Elite 8?
In my bracket, the Final Four is holding true. So, remarkably, I felt like a nit, having all the ones and having them go there. I've got Florida Duke winning it all. Florida Duke matchup, Duke winning it all, I should say. Our model actually disagrees with my prediction, at least from a bracket standpoint. But yeah, I think unfortunately where the NIL is you're going to see a couple of those guys that would have made names for themselves at mid majors for 3 or 4 years play the last, that last year out of blue blood. And then, if they have an NBA career or whatever. But yeah, if there is a kid who was maybe overlooked or didn't quite have the grades as a freshman, he gets in at, anywhere, VMI or UAB, one of those schools, going to get plucked at this point just because the checkbooks, man. It's they can't. The playing ground. There was an argument made. It's not mine. That if you kind of open it up, these schools can get in there and keep some of these local kids because now they can pay them. Well, they're just going to get paid more somewhere else. Yeah, Tulane could keep a kid from Louisiana and offer him, maybe 150 or 200,000. But if he's good enough that Tulane is going to pay him 6 figures, LSU is going to pay him $1 million. It's just where we are. So there are pros, cons about, I guess for both sides of it. I like seeing the blue blood succeed. I like the sprinkle of the Cinderella in there. McNeese State, that was a popular upset. But there just wasn't that team that made the deep run. Arkansas, I guess you could say, was close, obviously. We played them plus the points and money line in that Sweet 16 game and get rugged there, at the end, kind of typical Calipari coaching malpractice. But, yeah, the double-digit seeds are what have been driving the train really for the last, I guess since Gonzaga, since those early Gonzaga days maybe. But it seems like for the last decade we've had that one team that wasn't supposed to be there and get there. I think some of it is an anomaly that I wouldn't be, I would be shocked next year if there's not a double-digit team that makes a deeper run. I think it's just a one-off year. But those big schools are going to be able to pay more for those small schools' kids. So, years ago when you had a freshman or a sophomore on one of those small teams who did some, who scored 35 in a tournament game and was going to return next year, and that team was going to be the pick to win their conference and come back to the tournament. Odds are now he's gone. So, it's just the state of sports right now. I like some of the things that are being done, and I dislike some of the things, but we're not ever. No one's gonna. There isn't something that they can do right now where it's going to please everyone. I don't. Do you limit what schools can pay because then you're handcuffing kids, and you're going to have lawsuits, and it's just going to be a mess. But I thought the tournament has been good. The teams. We didn't have the 12 seeds or the 13 seeds make the Sweet 16 and make deep runs, but we had really competitive games between the higher seeded teams. So the product, I think, was still good, has been good. It's not, I think I was looking yesterday, underdogs had only won 1 in 5 games so far to date. How many games have we played? 32, 16, 48. 56, doing math on the air, whatever, about 60 games, and the underdogs have outright won, 12 of those. So it's just, that's down historically. How much of that is due to the NIL and the state of college basketball? I'm not sure how to quantify that, but yeah, this has just kind of been a one-off year. I think next year we'll see a little more pandemonium. I did think, and we talked, I think, a couple of different times, that we thought this was a wide open tournament. Any of 20 teams was capable of at least making it to an Elite Eight or a Final Four. And then, you look at the Elite Eight and it was pretty much blue blood up and down, or high seeds and blue bloods up and down. Disappointed some people. Some people are for it. So I guess not everyone hates it. But yeah, I think these two games, if you told me, Thursday morning before the first tip that we'd have Florida, Houston, Duke, and Auburn all playing in a Final Four, I would say, wow, that's, those 4 teams are playing probably the best basketball. Would be surprised that not, at least one of the 4 was an upset. But I would have taken that as a Final Four, as a basketball fan, not my team. I would have said, all right, that's 2 pretty good Final Four games. I'm for that. We'll wait and see how they turn out. Duke's, even money to win at most books right now. Odd how a team like Houston's odds go from 4-1 or just over, at the first round or going into the round of 32 to now their odds somehow are worse that they're in a Final Four. I hadn't seen that maybe ever, I don't think. But yeah, it's all in all, I think the tournament has been good. Probably could have used one, is that the difference between are we considering this tournament a failure or what we've done a failure? If you had in the Elite Eight 1-10, if Arkansas had made the Elite Eight, would we feel any better really about it because it's Calipari and a bunch of 4 and 5 stars, even though their seed is high? The number next to them is a bigger number than a 1 or a 3 or a 4. But yeah, we could have used a team like McNeese or New Mexico or someone like that. Maybe winning an extra game or so. But if that's the line, if we're on those kind of, thin margins on what's considered a success or not, then, maybe we're being too picky.
Before we have you break down the 2 games and then obviously what you see for some potential value, some leans, some tickets in pocket, and then Biff's Almanac, of course, in the championship game. And I did see a look-ahead number of Duke -4.5 against Florida. And I said earlier on the show today, the books are already bracing. They don't want to get ambushed by Duke money where the sharper people would say, Jesus, Florida getting 4.5. What am I seeing here? Because this Duke team looks like last year's UConn team. They're just steamrolling everyone. But we'll get to that. Well, my point here is, I feel bad for these coaches. After a win, the reporters are talking about, well, have you talked to your team because we heard that you're on your way to NC State. I'm talking about the McNeese coach, and he was up front and says, hey, I told my team I'm talking to them. And then you get an Izzo or a Calipari that they win a game and then they're talking about, oh shit, nil. The guys just won a game, and there's agents out there ready to talk and poach my players. And Izzo, after the loss, saying, geez, can I at least embrace this moment and be with my team? I could give a rat's ass about the portal right now where there's over 1,000 people and the nil. Let us take a moment to enjoy what we just had of this season. And now this gets to my point that Kevin Willard, what a bitch he is at Maryland. And you talk about how not to handle something. I love Villanova. I love the Big East. I love Jay Wright. Okay. But this kid had something special with this Maryland team. His starting 5 could have matched up with anyone in the country. And just to do them wrong, I hope they go 0-32 next year, number 1. Number 2, and hats off to Buzz Williams, because I like Buzz and I think he's going to do a hell of a job there. There's my rant.
Yeah, well, to address the Maryland situation, I talked to some guys that are pretty close to that program, and they had all seemingly known that he had been speaking, that he was already out the door. He had the benefit of keeping the Queen. Was the Queen the kid?
Yes,
local Baltimore guy. I heard that they paid quite a bit of money to keep him, but the way that he did the other kids in that class, yeah, that's going to come back to bite him. That's going to be used against him on the recruiting trail. I don't want to say that that's how it is now, because the player there's also, it's a two-way street. There are kids who also commit to a coach, and then 4 or 5 games into the season, I'm out. I'm not getting playing time. I'm in the portal. So we saw a handful of those this season. One in Tennessee, kid left, about 7 or 8 games in the season here in Knoxville. But yeah, that the whole Maryland situation, special season for them. Maryland basketball, hasn't been Maryland basketball since late 90s, early 2000. It's been a long time. It's a program that the ACC and basketball in general is better when Maryland has a quality top 25 type of team. He looked like he was going to be a Maryland guy, and he rugged everyone. He'll get what's coming to him. Buzz, you mentioned that. I do like that move. My question is, with all of the resources you have at A&M, that you couldn't do more there. And I was a Buzz guy before he took the A&M job. That's just, for some reason, that school football, that there were a lot of questions about the hire in football. Buzz, great year. What he did at A&M this season, that I think you would consider it a success. Didn't make a deep run, but won a lot of games. But yeah, I like the move there for Buzz. I think, the SEC is not going to be what it was this year, year in and year out. They're going to be competitive because they have the money. That's, the conferences that have money and now are in basketball are going to be more competitive than they were, or more often than not are going to be competitive year in and year out, just because they can afford to pay the players. But I can see why Buzz Williams wanted out. A lot of pressure in college basketball now. You used to have in football too, you used to have 4 years. Now, year 2, going into year 3, if the direction of the program isn't pretty defined already, that year 3 is the make or break year. And, so I understand there's immense amount of pressure. A lot of the coaches are being paid a ton of money. So, I don't feel too bad that, that you're under pressure and stressed out when you're making, $7-8 million a year to coach college basketball. I don't feel too bad, if the heat is on after year 2. But yeah, with the situation at Maryland, sad to see. Team was, Queen was going to be a one and done. What was that team going to look like next year? I don't know. I think he is a good coach, but there are a lot of good coaches that are lousy people. And, I think Maryland, you're probably better off. Obviously you have to wait and see. A ton of kids in the portal now, obviously. But yeah, what he did there was dirty. Buzz Williams' move, though, big fan of that. I think that was an A+ hire.
And I think the end of the day, well, first and foremost, other than the Fab Five, the Crab Five, whoever came up with that, God bless you there. But I think you talked about A&M and all the monies and the resources. I think at the end of the day, he's probably looking at competing with Texas Tech, and Houston. And so and now you add A&M, I think he was almost like the fourth fiddle when it came to those 3 schools. I couldn't get into Houston. I couldn't get into Texas. I don't want to go to Texas Tech. What do they have at A&M? So now he gets a fresh start, obviously, in Maryland. So I think that might have had, something to say there. Final 4. Okay. Houston, Duke, Florida, Auburn. I'm going to give you the stage. I'm just going to say this. I'm in a survivor pool. There was only 150 people, and I've been in a lot of big survivor pools, and I've always gotten to the Elite 8, the Final 4, and I ran out of gas. This year I did it a little different. I took teams where I thought that they'd win a lot closer games, but I knew they'd probably lose in the next game. And one of them obviously was UConn. They were only 3.5, 4-point favorites against Oklahoma, but I knew if they won that, they probably weren't going to beat Florida. I did the same thing with Arizona. My point is, I got to the Final 4, and I still have Duke and I still have Florida. Now, when I started this tournament, I had Duke versus Florida, and I had Florida. Well, I've changed that. And obviously, the look-ahead line is Duke minus 4.5 at Florida if they both get there. I could be contrarian because I think there's about 10 other people with the same two left. And I would say 8 of the 10 are going to do the same thing. Take Florida, hope they beat Auburn, hope Duke beats Houston, and then Duke beats Florida. So I have my pick in. It's Florida. I can go change it. But Houston and Duke, I nailed the 4.5. It's now 5 everywhere, 5.5 at DraftKings. Here was the key to me, Tyler. Houston, Tennessee. The overnight under-over was 120, maybe 121 in some shops. It got steamed to 125 or 126. The game lands on 119. So I nailed the 4.5, and it was, what was the under-over going to be? Was it going to be 140, a Duke number? Was it going to be 130, a Houston number? They put it at 136.5. And I've said this all along, and I kind of really want to hear your thoughts. If Houston can muck this thing up, keep it in the high 50s, low 60s, roll the ball out, first one to 65, Houston's got a good shot to win this game. Don't forget, it's in the state of Texas. It's not an official home game, but there'll be a majority Houston fans there. Once Duke gets to 70, 71, 72, 74, then I think Duke will find a way not only to win, but most likely cover.
Yeah, our number on the game is Duke 1.6, so a full possession under where that number is. You mentioned DraftKings 5.5. Everyone else 5, pretty much 110 across the board. A couple of 108s, but yeah, it's 5. It's 5 essentially everywhere. I think Circa opened 4.5 and moved. Most everyone else was split between 4.5 and 5. I don't mind that number. I think I understand why. They know the public, or they feel, I think, that the public is just going to pound Duke regardless. Benson was talking, or he was commenting on Twitter. Someone asked him what he thought the number should be, and they said, well, we think it should be Duke around 5. And he said, probably, but needs to be higher, essentially inferring that they're going to play Duke at 5, 5.5, 6, or 6.5. The Rex, you're going to obviously get hammered with sharp money and bigger bets, if you move that number or open it too high. But I wasn't really shocked that we saw that one go 2-5. Our number on Houston was good. I was a part of that. I was a small part of that steam on the total going over 120. There was a point in the second half where the live number was like 109.5 and got back up to 117. And I was just sitting there thinking, if this thing gets around 120, I may buy off and just take a small loss and exit. But I think that was when both teams went on like a 2-minute and 30-second drought with like 8 or 9 minutes left, and then it was, all she wrote. But yeah, this is a Houston team that is capable of forcing Duke inside. Duke have, Malkin, they have Knippel's good at getting inside and kind of backing down his guy and doing that mini Dirk step away. But this is a Houston team that can body Duke at all 5 positions, essentially. Houston got in foul trouble early and played a little smaller lineup against Tennessee, and they were still able to stretch their lead. That would be my concern there, is if the big guy for Houston gets in trouble. Cryer's going to be able to get hit. The guards are going to do fine. They're going to eat. I would almost argue that Duke defensively is probably at a slight disadvantage from the guard standpoint. Offensively, both of the 1 and 2 for both teams are really good, obviously flag. But this is a Houston team that can get in there and kind of dirty this game up. I think they want to get in there and make it physical. Tennessee tried to do that and they were overmatched. Some of that was just an anomaly, poor shooting night. You can't start 1 for 17 from 3 and beat anybody. The fact that they came back and made it a 9-point game was probably a testament to the kids on that team, and that they should have lost by 30. When they got to 22, should have been a 30-point loss. And Houston did, stretch it from 9 to 19. But this is a Duke team. They want to play fast, and Houston wants to play almost as slow as anyone in the country. They're in the bottom 5% of all Division I teams in tempo. Duke wants to get up into the 80s. That's not – if Duke gets to 80, then this is just a freak shooting performance. This would be like the Alabama shooting performance when Sears hit 10 and, you know, they hit 25 or 28 or whatever as a team. If for some reason they just hit a freak, you know, just a number that's not even close to where we're expected from three, maybe they get into the 70s. I just don't see this. I don't see the total going. It could go over. It could be a close game. It could, you know, obviously go to overtime, but it could be 68, 67, 67, 65 and just get over. But I don't see Duke getting, 75 is like absolute ceiling. And that would be Duke wins the game by 10 probably. You know, it's just a bad night offensively for Houston and Duke wins. But I think Houston has the bodies. If they can stay out of foul trouble, Houston will slow this game down. And I think exactly like you said, they'll play this game in the upper 50s or low 60s. If that's the case, I think Houston wins the game. And I think they cover obviously easily. Duke wants to get a little, and the difference in tempo here would be an upper 60s type of game versus an upper 50s. If Duke gets to probably 60, if Duke gets to 67 or 68, they win the game, I think. I don't know that Houston will have enough possessions unless they're just remarkably efficient where they can win the game. But yeah, our number, Duke, a full possession under market. So we play Houston at 5, probably look to play some at 5.5. Our total is not really far off of where the market has. We have it at 133 and change, rounded. So almost 133.5. Won't play the total, at least not pregame, maybe look live to get in there potentially. And then the other game, the Florida game, market pretty much stuck at 2.5. It looks like, hasn't moved a whole lot since opening. Our number has Auburn, baby favorite, minus 0.6. So it goes, both of the model goes against both of my bracket picks. I'm not terribly excited about that. And I have a guy that runs a decent sized bracket pool, but we have one in our family that is very cheap, but is one that I want to win more than it. I would rather win I think we have 19 in our family pool, and I would rather take the $10 off of the other 18 people in this pool more than I would want to win thousands anywhere else. In that one, I have one bracket. I'm not a 2 bracket guy. It's one bracket. I have the Florida Duke matchup, Duke winning in those. So I'll play the side that the model says and hope that with that Houston, I just hope that if Duke wins and doesn't cover the 5, I'll be all right. And obviously playing Auburn there plus the 2.5, hope maybe that it's a 1 or a 2 point game and I can somehow escape with the bracket intact and win both of the games. Our total on the Auburn game is pretty significantly higher than the market. We have that one at 167.5. So 2 full possessions above where that number is. 160 looks their books are kind of some moves right now. Looks like you see 159, 159.5, 160, 160.5. So books right now a little torn there on where the total in the Auburn game. That's a game there. I think Auburn can match up. They're Auburn down low, obviously. Broom in there with Flag in the Player of the Year conversation, and rightfully so. Is there any concern there that he's not 100%? He seemed like he was okay after the game, at least. Walking around, but that would be one question. Florida, it seems like even if they're obviously the UConn game, they can get behind and they're just never out of it. They can shoot themselves back into a game. So if Auburn gets out to a 8 or 10 point lead, obviously Florida can get back in just 3 or 4 quick possessions. But I'm pretty excited about the matchup. I think it's the 4 of the probably 6 teams that were playing the best basketball going into the tournament at the end of the year got there. So, sit back and see what happens on Saturday. Hope for a Duke Florida matchup and that we cover both sides of the number there. But we'll play. We played over in the Auburn Florida game. Got Auburn plus the 2.5, and then Houston at 5 and 5.5.
Well, sometimes you look like a genius. Sometimes you look like a jackass. I will tell you, Tennessee and Houston, we had the Tennessee team total under 62.5. And when you score 15 points in the first half, I looked like that genius there. So again, great matchups, of course. Would I be shocked? Duke, Florida? Of course I would not. Would I be shocked if it was Duke, Auburn, Houston, Auburn? No, the 4 number ones for a reason. Auburn has showed flashes of that, why they were number one for most of the year in this tournament. I said this on Sports Grid on Sunday night. I was surprised how quick they put out that opening number of Florida and Auburn on the broom fall, because it wasn't just his ankle, it was his elbow as well.
Yeah.
But you know how they want to get it out there. So good point there. I will tell you, our good friend, Mr. Jeffrey Benson at the Circa, has now laid a 3, Florida -3. He's the only one in the land right now with the 3. Everyone else has got 2.5s there. So you know that when he's on, usually different than everyone else, he's usually on the right side, Tyler.
Yeah, 6-figure limits right now, and I think they're looking to move those on Saturday to 300,000. So not afraid to take action. Yeah, if they move from importantly from 2.5 to 3, it's because it was a respected either wager or series of wagers from guys that they consider very sharp. So yeah, probably should note that when Circa moved from 2.5 to 3 and everyone else stayed at 2.5, that if that turns out to be true, then Circa is Circa for a reason.
We always wrap up this segment. I wanted you to tell everyone where they can find all your work, of course, on Twitter at Tyler Wyatt Bets. We're going to circle back with you next week. I never even asked you this question. Basketball's over on Monday. No college football, no college basketball. What does Tyler Wyatt do once they cut the nets down on Monday, other than, of course, play poker?
Poker, baby.
Okay.
Yeah, we handicap baseball, mostly team totals. The hardest thing in the handicapping world, or guys that try to handicap, is admitting to yourself or admitting publicly, which is probably admitting to yourself, I think, is harder. That you don't have an edge in a sport anymore. I had an edge individually in baseball for a number of years and lost. I just hate to admit that I lost the edge there in handicapping. Baseball is a full-time, literally, or it's around the clock and almost year-round job to handicap it well. And it's just, it got to the point where after college basketball, there's a lot of work in college basketball just because of the number of teams. But to try to do basketball full-time and then do baseball full-time, it's, you're literally you're staring at a computer or a screen for 16 hours a day for 9 months. And that wasn't something that, that I wanted to do. And one, it wasn't, it makes sense, financially to do it without much of an edge. I still tinker around with a lot of pitching models just for some team total stuff. But yeah, my time is better served on the felt April to about July, and then spend about a month before football season after you get the spring practices, the injuries, and then some of the late enrollees. You start with football and then get into the NFL. So that's enough of a job for me. We'll spend the rest of the year on the felt.
Well, we will give you some time off. We will let you regroup. We'll check in periodically, of course, to keep track of your World Series of Poker updates. The goal, obviously, is to get out and see you in July for the World Series of Poker there in Vegas. Then obviously bring you back for college football and, of course, college basketball next season. Tell everyone where you can find all your work, sir.
Yeah, easiest way, Twitter at Tyler Wyatt Bets, at Odds Culture, or oddsculture.com.
Tyler, thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the madness, and we'll catch up with you next Wednesday. We'll wrap up the season. Who cut the nets, who didn't cut the nets, and why, and then we'll figure out the spring and summer from there.
Sounds good. See you, JD.
Take care. Tyler Wyatt, go follow him at Tyler Wyatt Bets, at Odds Culture. Unique, one of the best in the business, and of course, great poker stories as well. One quick commercial break, and we'll wrap it up. Stay tuned.
Welcome to good food. At Atlanta Steaks and Seafood, you'll find the highest quality meats from a variety of delicious cuts, tomahawks, salmon fillets, ribeyes, and plenty more to choose from. With an easy-to-use mobile-friendly website, selecting your pick of meat is made quick and easy. And don't forget, worrying about your dinner is a thing of the past. Check out some of the amazing subscription packages that Atlanta Steaks and Seafood has to offer. Fresh steak and seafood straight to your door. Order online at atlantasteaksandseafood.com.
What a show, an hour and a half. Adam Trigger at Wager Talk. Andy Powers at Hockey East at BC Hockey. And of course, we wrap it up with Tyler Wyatt at Tyler Wyatt Bets at Odds Culture. 3 o'clock, Lou Finicaro, Fight Night Fortunes, Las Vegas, UFC, Apex. Guys, I can't thank you enough. If you haven't already, do us one favor. Jump on over to YouTube. Subscribe at East Coast Sports Investors. It's free. Come on back to Twitter at EC Sports Invest. Follow us. Any questions, comments, concerns? You can send us an email at eastcoastsportsinvestors@gmail.com. If you'd like to be a part of the ECSI VIP experience for just $3 a day, head on over to eastcoastsportsinvestors.com. Check out our website, top right corner, plans and pricing. Scroll all the way down. $99, your own ECSI gym membership. Welcome to the family. Set it and forget it every 30 days. You'll get charged. You get our place set right to your cell phone via text and email, no timestamp. And if you want to be a part of it for a little less, just a little, and we're wrapping this one up. So if you want to act, you better act now. We have partnered with Dub Club. Okay, go to EC Sports Invest on Twitter. Check out my profile page. Click the link, the Dub Club link there, and you can sign up for $1.78 a day, $60 for the first month. That's MLB, NHL, NBA playoffs. If you act now, I'll even throw in the Masters for next week. So from myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, we wish everyone a blessed day, and we'll see you at 3 o'clock. Stay tuned.